What is up, guys? Cool Hand Hefe. Thank you for all the well wishes for my convalescence. I'm still not quite there, but we're working on it. Also, guys, happy 4th of July. Be safe out there. Have a good time. And then tomorrow's Friday, so we're all going back to work. Moving on. I have a lot of folks ask me, they say, Bull, how do I use these darn short-range torpedoes? Well, that's a very good question. One that could not have been answered for me without the ideas of my old partner Loading Heat. Now, typically in your 6-click range torps, now a lot of the times your trees don't end up getting decent torps till 5, 6, 7. Japanese, for example, Fubuki gets 10 clicks at 5. Americans are still stuck on 6. British are stuck on 6. So even at tier 5, even at a fairly high tier vessel, has crap torps. 6 click. What can we do? Is there nothing we can do? We can only, spam it at point blank targets? No. You can actually go out there and you can make it happen with these short range torpedoes. Now, don't get me wrong. You're going to go out there and throw some blind fires near a cloud of smoke. Don't expect a whole lot unless whomever was in the cloud comes sailing directly towards you. You may not get a whole lot of those blind fire torp hits we always like to see, but you can make it work. Now, keep in mind, we're talking about a DD here. We're talking about a ship whose primary purpose is to throw, obviously, torpedoes / depth charges. In this case, torpedoes, what we're focusing on. We're not talking about, the Aoba, or, we're not talking about any cruisers. We're not talking about the 4.5 click fish on the Atlanta. The Japanese cruisers have amazing torps. We're not talking about anything but DDs. Short range torps on DDs. It's tricky to say the least, because what you have, folks, is you have a torp range that is equal or less than your detection range. So, if your detection range is 6.2, your torpedoes are 6, you're going to be well within spotting distance. So what do? How do we fix this? What can we do? Well, for starters, you could get the commander, I think it's Reginald Tier Wit. It is Reginald Tier Wit, who has Torpedo Safari. That will increase your torpedo range just a little. Now, there's only, I think, 2 captains, one Japanese and one British, maybe one American, that increases your torp distance. Now, granted, guys, it's not like leaps and bounds. You might get an extra half click, 3/4 out of it, I don't know. But that's not what we're talking about here. We are talking about using islands as cover, and then torping the enemies as they come out around the islands. Now, what you want to do is, you want to go through your scope frequently here, your torpedo scope, the Y button, if you will, and you want to see the paths your targets are traveling. Obviously, you want to go for battleships because they're slow and they're not very maneuverable. Cruisers, if you have to, we can do work on cruisers and other DDs, obviously, but the cruisers and the DDs tend to be very, very maneuverable. The battleships, not so much. That's why it's always a good target. But what you want to do is kind of like what I'm doing right here. This way you can see which direction your target is going, which way he's going, and you can kind of plan around that. Now, you have to be very, very cautious to do what I'm kind of insisting on you to do, is work with these islands, not run into these islands. But the idea here is you want your target to be coming around an island, you be on the other side, and then you can lay down an attack and then back off or turn and burn or drop smoke, whatever floats your boat, literally. But that is kind of how you want to use these short range torps. We're getting some good hits right here, and you'll notice right off the jump there, we just kind of laid down the hatred, popped some smoke, and dipped out. And the op kind of brought me to this, you know, you had to get so many torp hits, and then I think the one I'm on is you have to be in a British ship. And I said, you know, this would be a great opportunity for me to show how to make short-range torps work. Now, granted, you know, what we just did, I don't recommend that, where you just sail up to somebody and throw a bunch of fish in the water and then, you know, DD Mao. I don't recommend that. I recommend using the islands as cover. We're going to have some footage here later of where we do just that, and that is how you want to make your torps work. Now, granted, of course, I'm not saying you need to go out there and you need to get a British destroyer that fires single shot torps. It doesn't really matter in the scheme of things. As long as you can get them off the ship and in the water and towards the bad guys, that's what we're looking for. But the islands block line of sight. Now, you just have to keep in mind that you have to have a good situational awareness. You have to keep your head on a swivel. When you do have short-range torps, and when you go in to make your strike, because you may be in a good range and a good zone here to hit someone, but you may be getting too close to a cruiser that's popped around the corner or what have you. So you kind of have to watch your mini-map in the top left-hand corner and kind of have an idea where everybody's at, or going, as a matter of fact. Now, what we're doing here, guys, is we are following the scope, and we know he's going to be heading around this tiny island. So what we're going to do is we're going to head him off. Now, as you can see there, I'm kind of scanning around to see if there's any baddies over there. Now, guys, when they throw a plane, there is a high percentage they're going to be able to dodge your torps, unless you drop them very, very short, which, surprise, that is our total MO here. We are going to drop them super short. Now, granted, of course, also we are using a British, so we can kind of fire them single fire, and we're just going to lay down a blanket, if you will, and we're going to do it exactly how we're going to want to here. We're going to go ahead and drop smoke and run through the guns here. And what we're going to try to do is get him to set him on fire and get him to use his repair kit. Because what happens is he does that, then he gets hit with a torp, and then he's got flood damage, and flood damage trumps fire damage every single time. Now, of course, if you can get him on fire and flooding, then you're in business. And this guy is going to get torped from stem to stern. He took a ton of fish, sushi for dinner. So, you know, we managed to pull a ton of damage just off 2 targets there. And granted, of course, the first one was kind of like, you know, going out there dumb luck type of situation, but the second one is how you're supposed to use short range torps. You're supposed to use these islands. They will never see it coming. And granted, this is also a very, very viable tactic for those of you who don't have short range torps. If you have, you know, your 8, 10, 9.2, what have you, you can still bend that corner. Now, granted, what it does for you is it just gets your torp to target faster. They have less time to dodge, which is also a very, very good thing. There's not a whole lot. And guys, make sure to watch out for your distance to target. You always want to know what your time to target is. That way, you know, put yourself in their shoes. Be like, okay, well, this torp is going to take 30 seconds to get there. And then, you know, the rudder shift on an Iowa is this. And, you know, if you've played an Iowa, you know it doesn't stop on a dime. It takes, you know, 30 city blocks to stop completely. So this is why I am a big advocate of playing everything. Play every ship, play every line, play every class. That way you learn the strengths and you learn the weaknesses. Well, you know, it's great at destroying things. What can it do? Well, it can't turn for crap, and it doesn't accelerate good, and it doesn't decelerate good, and it doesn't do this, doesn't do that, does this good. And you take these things and you kind of put it in to this tactical computer called your brain, and you can make a decision. And, you know, what you're doing here is you're saying, okay, if it's 30 seconds time to target and your rudder shift is 18, now granted that's for a full rudder shift, but you can kind of do the math in your head. You'll be like, well, you know, they can't slow down. You know, they can only manage so much of a turn, and you kind of plan your attack around that. Assuming, of course, they try to dodge them or they're not engaged. The ultimate thing is to shoot someone who is actively engaged because they are in the scope and they are not paying attention. And the only time they know is when the guy says torpedoes port side or whatever. But yes, 95,000 damage, 506, 208,000 silver. Guys, I really hope you enjoy. Make sure to like, subscribe, and share. And check out the stream Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern. Also, don't forget, starting next Monday, I will be on vacation for 2 weeks. But we will have regular uploads at 11 p.m. Eastern, so make sure to check them out. We'll see you guys next time.